Alright, so welcome to Bioimages instructions. What we're going to start with is you should have your images on hand. Right now we're starting with 3 images of a crane fly. You should make sure that you have your images already renamed to something besides like IMG or JPEG or anything to where it's something that you want it, because once you get into Bioimages you're not going to be able to change the names. So right now we have our group's name, Stream Team, followed by 5 numbers. Those 5 numbers are important. You need to make sure there's something that you recognize and you have some sort of system, because that's how the URL is going to work. So when you have those 5 numbers, that's what it's going to be: bioimages.vanderbilt.edu/those numbers. And that's how you're going to get to your images. So have some sort of system of naming and numbers. Like what we have is that the first number is the species, and then the last number is the number photo of that species. So we have our images ready to go. So we're going to open Bioimages. And so we're going to click Process New Images. Select, you should make sure that you have whatever you're using right here. A lot of time we have a special ORCID ID. It goes with ORCID ID. We have a special ORCID ID made specifically for our group, so we just have Stream Team. If you're using it just by yourself, you need to make sure that it's your ORCID ID. So we're going to select our image files. So just go to wherever you save those images and select those files. I'm going to open all 3 of these, and then you're going to hit Continue. So we have Bioimages open now. The first thing you're going to want to do is, so if you have like a bunch of images in at once, I only have 1 organism right now, but you can do batches of like a ton of organisms. What we're going to do is we're going to select all of the images that are the same organism. And then we're going to click this button that says Group Selected Thumbnails as an Individual Organism. So that's going to turn this into a group. So everything that you put in is for that group. We'll click that. So now that's grouped those organisms together. The next thing we're going to do is going to put in the coordinates for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to organism georeference remarks, and we're going to change it. Currently it has determined from organism's average of its images coordinates, which is most likely incorrect because you're going to have something else that makes your coordinates. So what we're going to choose is location determined from an independent GPS measurement, because we used our phones to get the GPS coordinates. Then we are going to type into organism lat long the coordinates that you have. So make sure that you have your coordinates ready in decimal form, so if you have it in minutes, then you're going to need to convert it. So for where we were going, it was 36.135, and then you're going to separate those with a comma. And then -86, make sure you have the negative in there if you're in Tennessee like we are, because otherwise you will end up in China. -86.849.722. So there's our image coordinates. We're going to go down to Image Georeference Remarks, which is all the way down here, and we're going to make sure that that is written as location inferred from organism's coordinates. This just means that it's going to take the coordinates from what you put in for the organism's coordinates and make that the same as the image's coordinates. So then the values that you typed in for organism coordinates should appear in this box here, like I have. If you have uncertainty, you should select the uncertainty value. We took the image exactly where it was, so we're going to put it at the lowest, which is 10. Next, you need to make sure that organism scope and establishment means both have values. If it says uncertain, that's fine. Usually it defaults to having those, so you really shouldn't have to worry about that, but just make sure before you do this next step. Also, make sure you have coordinates in both boxes of the latitude and longitude. So I have coordinates here in organism latitude and longitude, and then I also have coordinates here in latitude and longitude for the image. You should make sure that you have coordinates in both of those. So next is the most important part. You hit the reverse geocode button, and that's going to fill in all your information for you. So now it did it for us. So we have locality is the Richland Creek Greenway, Davidson County, Tennessee, U.S., and North America. So make sure when you look through, make sure that's right. That is where you took the picture. That's where the organism was found. Just make sure that's all correct. Okay. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to change the copyright settings, the usage terms. So you're going to go down here to this drop box. Most of this other stuff should be filled in for you, so you should be okay on that. We're going to go down to usage terms, the thing that says CC BY, NC, all of that stuff. We're going to change it to CC BY 3.0. CC BY just means that anyone can use your pictures, but they just have to credit you, but they don't have to contact you for anything. If you used a different kind of usage terms, people would have to contact the owner, and that's a little hard, especially when you're in a group. Like ours is just Stream Team, it's not a specific person. If you wanted to go even more, you could do CCO, which just means that anyone can use it and they don't have to credit the owner at all. The next thing we're going to do is change the time zone. So time zone, you're going to have plus or negative depending what side of the prime meridian you're on. So for Nashville and in Tennessee, we're in the central time zone. Normally, the central time zone is for standard time is -6. However, we are currently in daylight savings time, so it's actually going to be -5. And the way it's typed in is you do plus or minus, then your number, 2 digits, colon, and then 00. Except, like I just said, we're -5. Whoops. So that takes care of that. So when we want to come over here to specimen group, part, and view, specimen view and specimen group are things that don't really apply when we're doing insects. Like if you look at specimen group, it's a lot of stuff that applies to like trees. They don't have a lot of, the software doesn't currently have a lot of options for insects, so we just leave that as unspecified. What we can choose is specimen part. You're going to want to, like us, we have this crane fly, we're going to go to whole organism because it's a picture of the entire organism. If you would like to write a caption, you can. We haven't been worrying about it. You don't have to worry about occurrence remarks. You can, if you want to withhold information, that's down here, and you have to say reason why. Typically, we don't do anything about that because we're not withholding any information, but if you were, you'd have to specify why. Most of the time, that's used for if you're like not giving the exact coordinates in order to protect the species. That's not really a problem with us. Also, don't put organism name here. We made that mistake before. Don't put like its common name or anything right there. There's a different spot where you do that. Because that is if like the organism actually has a name, as in like Shamu. So you don't have to worry about that. So next we're going to get into the hard part, which is the determination. So you're going to click New under Determinations. If you have the binomial name, you can just type it in here. However, it doesn't have a lot of things in the database, especially for insects. A lot of the times when we are putting in insects, it's the first thing that's in this database for that species. You can do the same with the common name or the family name, but again, they just don't have very many insects in the thing. So we're going to just go ahead and manually enter. So for manually entering, what we're going to start with is you need to identify it as far as you can. Most likely with insects, as far as you're going to get is genus, and that's really only if you're lucky. So TSNID is the taxonomic serial number. You can find that on a website called IDIS. It's pretty easy to find. So whatever you figure out what it is, you just search for that. It'll give you all the information, and it'll give you this TSNID. So for this crane fly, we got it down to family. In which case, so we're going to use the taxonomic serial number of this family, which is stated here as 118840. Then for taxon rank, that's just what you write as how far you got it down to taxonomically. So we got it down to family, so that I'm just going to write family right there. Then kingdom, obviously Animalia. And so I just have on my phone, I have the IDIS report website, and it just has all of the information here for all of the taxons, so I'm just reading off that and copying it onto here. Class is Insecta. The order is Diptera. And since we only got down to family is Tipulidae. Tipulidae. I'm not a professional. If you had gotten it down to species, it's important to know that all of these need to be capitalized, all of these here, but when you get to specific epithet, what that means is that it's the second part of your species name. Like if you know, like binomial nomenclature, it has its genus species. Specific epithet only applies to the species part, and that would not be capitalized because when you do binomial nomenclature, it's not. So you would get down and you would do this genus, and instead of like if it just said species, you would just be rewriting genus. So instead of doing that, it just has the specific epithet. So that's what you'd write there. For common name here, we know that it's a crane fly, so I'm just going to type that in. And we'll hit OK. That is our determinations that we manually entered. All right, so once you've manually entered, you should see it all here. If you have a source for the name that it finds here, you can choose that, but again, a lot of times it doesn't have it in the database. If you were to get lucky and found it in here, it would input all of this in for you and you wouldn't even have to worry about the manually enter. So be careful because once you click done, you are not going to be able to change this determination. You would only be able to delete it. So review what you've written and just make sure that it's where you want it and everything is spelled correctly and you've got it all down. Once you've reviewed your inputs, then just click done. And all of your things should appear here. So the next thing you should check for is that the source of name just says nominal. If a determination doesn't have a value, it should just say nominal. Usually the database does this for you, so you shouldn't have to worry about it, but just it's good to check and just make sure that says nominal, so we're good. And then after that, you've had everything done, so you're good to go. This is our crane fly. What you're going to do next is go to File, Return to Start Screen. Don't worry, everything is saved in the database, so you're fine. Return to the Start Screen. And then we're going to go to Manage CSVs. So what that's going to do is that it's going to export CSV files of everything that you've ever done in Bioimages. So it's going to have saved. So it's going to have everything you've done in Bioimages in that up until this point in that one CSV. So everything I've done in Bioimages is going to be on this CSV. We're just going to move those so I have room. Alright, since this was a batch from the batch I did today was of March 8th, we're going to go to Manage CSVs, then you're going to go to Export. Choose the folder that you want. I'm choosing March 8th because that's the date that I took these from. You shouldn't have any other CSVs in that folder or it won't accept them. So select that folder. Data saved to CSV files successfully. So you are good to go. Now that you look in your file, you should see these. These are all the CSV files that Dr. Baskov is going to need to process your images. What we do is we take those CSVs along with the pictures that went with them. So I'm basically just going to take this entire March 8th folder and email it to Dr. Baskov, or we have a box account set up with him. So you just get those images and those CSV files to him in some way so that he can have them, because he also needs the images with them so that he can combine them with the CSVs. I think he has to do that manually. So then he will process them for you. I hope that this was helpful and that this makes Bioimages a lot easier for you. It certainly did for me. Hopefully this tutorial can be used in the future, maybe by some SSMV kids, maybe not. I just hope that your Bioimages work successfully and that this has been helpful. Thanks for watching.